Hello, welcome everybody. Okay, I hope that you had a fantastic week and start of the week and a fantastic weekend. And today we start something new. So good. Okay. Before I just change the screen, let me just open something else. Because I had time to finish the elf character that we've been doing for the past weeks. So of course I want to show you that. Let's see. Okay, here it is. Juan Toledano, buenas noches. Good evening. How are you doing? Welcome to the stream, like always. Oh, very important. Our cozy fireplace as well to have on the background. Let's see. There it is. So, as I mentioned last week, today I will be starting painting a Lord of the Rings illustration as we were discussing. And for the first time and very much in topic, we have the privilege to be joined by my dog, Bilbo. So very fitting. I'm arranging my studio room. So you cannot see on the camera, but outside the frame of the camera, it's completely chaos. It's like a bomb dropped. It's only the area that you can see behind it that looks kind of neat. But yeah. David Sánchez, hola Miguel, es un placer ver estos vídeos. Greetings from Argentina. David, bienvenido, muchas gracias. El honor y placer es mío. Bienvenido. Welcome to the stream. And Argentina, love it. Okay, so yes, let's put our painting screen. So yeah, here is our warrior slash, I don't know, a bodyguard of some sort. And yeah, I'm kind of happy with it. So yeah, let's let's start with Lord of the Rings illustration. When I say that I'm gonna be starting, I'm kind of lying because I had some time before the stream, not today, but previous days. I was so excited about it that I actually found some time to work on it. So I will be starting the illustration already pretty much initiated. So it's early stages, but yeah, you will see. So it's not completely from the very beginning, even though I'm recording everything as I'm doing with every single piece that I'm doing during the live streams. I'm recording at the same time with the goal of or plans to release sometime in the future some a time-lapse video of the whole process from the very beginning to the end. So yeah, that includes also the elf lady here, and like all the previous ones that I've been doing, I'm recording everything. So the same thing with this new Lord of the Rings illustration. So here it is. It is extremely work in progress, like very on the beginning, and I see. I mean, I'm gonna be changing quite a lot of things because I'm not sure about the framing and about the composition. Even though it's more or less gonna stay the same composition-wise, but still there are plenty of elements that I will be changing and modifying. The same thing with the characters. So yeah, this is what I could as I could put it, is that I'm in a moment where everything is very fluid and just trying to find something to settle with. I started with an initial sketch, which is this one, where I kind of decided the color palette, more or less everything. I mean, since I didn't have much time really, so everything was kind of on a rush, and I've kind of settled with the poses and the idea and how I wanted to put it. So roughly this is what I was aiming for, and this is the initial sketch. And then I started knowing more or less what was the direction. This is what I started to work for the actual piece. Instead of normally, I like to do that, is I start to, of course, depending on the situation, but in this case, since it's just for me, I have no time pressure. I can spend as much time as I want, and it's going to be a very fluid and changing process. So a lot of exploration and a lot of changing certain things. So in those cases, what I like to do is to have a very initial and rough sketch that kind of sets the overall direction of what I want to do. So I work with some sketches, and once I have the one that I like, which again in this case is this one, then I just put it as a reference, but I start again from scratch instead of continue working on this. And I like to do that because I feel I mean, if the circumstances and needs allowed me to do this, which is not always, in some cases I will continue with the initial sketch and work on top of it. But in these cases, I like it to do it this way because it offers me a lot of wiggle room and freedom and to start kind of fresh, even though with the same with a direction set in my mind. But still, since I'm restarting again, it allows me to start the process with a fresher mind, even though it's so early stage, but still fresher than if I'm already kind of settled with this rough sketch, which also another aspect of this is that which kind of may help to understand why in this case I do this, is because this sketch is very, very rough and very general. It's just kind of a suggestion of a direction, right? I'm not kind of so with all the elements here that this is exactly what I want. It's just like, okay, more or less this is what I'm aiming for, but not necessarily. So by starting from zero, when I'm starting the actual illustration, it gives me that freedom to explore even within that set direction, but still I feel more free in my mind. So that's kind of the explanation that I can give for why I'm doing this. Yes. So, all right. So for those of you that just come here and have no idea of what I'm doing in terms of this illustration, as I mentioned, these are two characters that appeared on the third book of the Lord of the Rings trilogy. So they are very, they appear in a paragraph and that's it. So they are absolutely no important characters whatsoever on the main plot. They are irrelevant, really, but there are two characters that for some reason always I don't know, always got into my stuck into my mind. I always remembered because of the little story that happened. So these characters are appeared on the story when Frodo and Sam have already entered Mordor, and they are trying to to get into the Mountain of Destiny. I have read the books in Spanish, so all the names are in my mind are in Spanish, so I'm not too keen into how they are named in the original piece. Hi, Bilbo. All right. So Frodo and Sam, they are walking in a river bench. Riverbed that is dry, and suddenly they hear some voices, so they need to hide. And these two guys appear, so they are looking for them, even though they don't know exactly who they are after, but they are after them. And we know that because they are talking between them. They got the orders to track some enemies, and they don't know if they are elves. They don't know if they are other orcs. They don't know if they don't know. Like some little people, they have never heard of hobbits. So they are discussing about that, and they are this guy here. He's like a lower caste, small type of orc, and you have the other one. And this one, he's supposed to be some sort of scout or something like that. And he, on their conversation, you understand that they use the smell mostly to track their prey. And then you have this other guy, which is like a proper warrior. And they are all the time teasing each other and insulting and basically just arguing all the time. So at the end of the scene, basically this guy, they're arguing. This guy decides that he has enough of this arguing, and he just basically shoot an arrow into this guy's eye and kills him and just flies and goes away. So Frodo and Sam can continue their journey. So what I'm trying to illustrate here in this scene is like the moment where they are initiating their argument. That's the type of thing that I'm trying to to illustrate. We know from their description that he is he has an horned bow, and he's dressed with leather. Well, not leather, but like I don't know what's the name in English, but like with he's dressed very poorly with uh, rags and stuff like that. And then we have this guy, which is described as a warrior, so he's properly equipped, and he has another bow and a spear, and he's supposed to be more stronger and bigger build. And that's from memory. That's more or less the overall description. So I'm not settled with the design. As I have mentioned on the previous weeks, I have never done a proper Lord of the Rings illustration, so I'm very rusty. And I'm kind of at this point, even though it's early stage, but I'm struggling to kind of find my vision of the characters. I'm very heavily influenced by other artists when it comes to the visualization of Lord of the Rings. So I'm trying to, of course, do my version, but and so yeah, I'm maybe struggling is not the right word, but I'm just like engaged. Maybe that's the better way to put it. I'm engaged into finding the style and the design of the characters and the feel to it. So it's not of, I mean, it's nothing too extravagant or new, of course. But yeah, nevertheless, I'm trying to find my vision, so to speak. Even though, yeah, again, it's very heavily influenced by other artists. So yeah. Juan Toledano, you are less conditioned without the first sketch than working over it. Yes, exactly. Very well said. Yeah, that's what I was trying to explain in a very complicated way. Yes. Warthog, Mount Doom. Okay, there you go. Okay, yes. Thank you. Yeah, I in the Spanish translation, it could be translated as the Mount of Destiny or something, if I recall correctly. Now I'm starting to doubt, but yeah, I think it is the case. It's totally different in German too. All right, yeah. I have to say, I have heard, for example, that the Swedish version is not very good, the translation, which I'm surprised. I have no idea if there is any Swedish person here. Would love to hear. But from hearing from some friends, they always said that the Lord of the Rings translation to Swedish wasn't very good. I have to say the Spanish translation, it's very good. It is very, very good. Because it managed to give to transfer the spirit and flavor of the names and everything to Spanish. So some names are completely different, but they managed to capture the Englishness in a Spanish version. So, for example, Bilbo Baggins in Spanish is called Bilbo Bolsón, just to give you an example. uh, and it works fantastic because I mean that for me is a good example of a great translation, because if it would be just taken literally, Bilbo Baggins for any Spaniard or any person that speaks Spanish, that's not gonna, that means nothing, right? It doesn't give anything. So I think it's absolutely needed version, a translation, basically, and sometimes that doesn't necessarily means to make a literal translation. But yeah, anyway, we are digressing. Sorry. Let's focus in painting. Uh, um, J-Zone. Hello, Miguel. How are you? Hi. I'm fine. Thank you. How about you? I'm here and very excited to start, or well, continue with this illustration. So as I see it at the moment, it's plenty of work ahead with this. Let's see how long it takes. But yeah, how about you? How are you doing? And welcome to the stream, Andrea. Wow, they look amazing just the way they are. I like them a lot. They are just perfect for the Lord of the Rings. They are even creepier because they are slightly more human than the orcs we are used to see. Well, thank you, Andrea. As I said, I don't know how they are gonna look at the end. This is gonna be a very fluid process, and I might change things quite a lot along the way. So we'll see. But thank you, I much appreciate it. You know, I mean, in terms of what I was saying before, that I'm heavily influenced by other artists. In that way, I could say that to me, the biggest influence, artistically speaking, into visualizing Lord of the Rings is Alan Lee, and his orcs are very human-like. I mean, of course, they are different, but yeah, they are quite similar to humans to a certain degree. So I guess that might be the case. By the way, Andrea, as I mentioned earlier, wink, wink, please don't feel afraid to ask anything. As I said, this is the reason, the main reason why I decided to start streaming was for the exact reason of giving the opportunity to open this kind of medium to be able to answer questions that otherwise through social media or by email it's extremely difficult and might take years to make a proper answer. So yeah, this way is a perfect way to interact and for you to ask stuff and for me to answer. So please don't be afraid, don't be shy, just go for it. Regardless of how technical you might think those questions are. I mean, there are plenty of other artists, fellow artists on the chat and also on the Discord. So yeah, you are not alone. So I think we are all cut on that way. So yeah, again, don't be afraid. So yeah, go for it. ZR, the Hungarian too, especially the songs. All right, fantastic. Yeah, I mean, that's that's why I am kind of I mean, being Lord of the Rings such a, I mean, there is no discussion about it, like a good piece of universal literature, right? So it's on the high on on that list that I would expect that like general translations to other languages are going to be excellent, right? Because it's not just like a random fashionable bestseller. I mean, it's just a a piece of universal literature, right? So it's like a masterpiece. So that's why I'm so surprised that some of my Swedish friends, what they said is that the Swedish version is not good. I don't understand it. I kind of find it difficult to believe it. So yeah, I don't know. Gathering Wolves, Legolas, Piernudolas. All right, yeah. Wartorg. It's Mountain of Destiny in German. Also, okay. Uh, uh, Weird that it matches other languages, but not the original. Well, maybe in the original piece, it's also named that way. So it's named with different names in along the story. So maybe they picked, I don't know. Jordan Banks. How do I paint like you? Uh, well, I don't know. I guess going through all my life experiences. That's yeah. Yeah, that's a weird question, to be honest. You would have to be me in order to paint like me. So, but yeah, I guess what I understand what you mean. So, okay, before I answer, which either way is going to be a very generic type of answer because yeah, it's a very gloomy type of question. uh, let me just see what I'm gonna do. So give me just a second. All right. So yeah, you see, I had another version of this guy like this, but somehow I like more this version. All right. So yeah, I mean, your to answer, I would say like, well, of course, I mean, I guess you are referring in terms of level of skills. So just the honest answer is just to get where I am, which is just where I am. So it's not the best, or yeah, I have plenty of things to learn and improve myself. So anyway, but just a lot of painting and studying and grind. That's the only thing I can say. So yeah, I said it was going to be quite a generic answer, but yeah, that's the honest answer that I can give in that regard. All right, yeah. So I would like to do something interesting with the helmet. So doing something kind of like this, like giving like certain, I was thinking like certain Roman legendary vibe to the helmet. So, and by the way, these guys are called Nar and Garn, as they are. At least that's how they are called on the books, on the Spanish translation, I guess. Yeah, I would be surprised if in this case the names would be different, but and to what you were saying, that they looked very human-like. I still would like them to look a little bit less human. So I want to find that balance between looking human to a certain degree, so it's easy to relate to them, but at the same time enough of strange features to make to pull them apart from normal people. But again, that's one of the things that that I need to find that vision, and I'm still not settled. So that's why I mean by I will be probably be changing things quite a lot, or at least exploring things. Hampus Nilsson, I have only read the first version. There are some scenes where the translation is too wrong, that the wrong thing happens. Even Tolkien didn't like the Swedish one. All right, so so yeah, I don't know. I haven't read it myself, so I don't know. But I just find it so difficult to believe. I don't know. And if that is so, but you mentioned like a first version. Did they actually did a second version kind of to fix it? That would be interesting. Jason, do you have material like this in Spanish or with some subtitles? What do you mean by material? You mean the videos on YouTube? Um, Sadly, if that was the question, sadly no, except for the recent tutorial series about how to paint and draw space marines, which thanks to the awesome Juan Toledano that is here on the chat, that he helped with the subtitles. So we have Spanish subtitles for that tutorial series. But except from that, I'm afraid not. I mean, I mean, I would love to have it, but you have to understand that it's so much work putting subtitles. It takes a very long time, and well, I don't have time for that. There is a question that why am I doing this in English? Well, that's a good question, but I guess that the reason for that was that I thought to aim for a more international audience overall than if I just speak in Spanish. Well, be only for Spanish speaking. Even though, to be honest, I would love to do something in Spanish because sometimes I struggle with English. Oh, I forgot to start the recording. There you go. Andrea. Yes, please do. Hampus. But I did still like it when I read it many years ago, so it's not that bad. Okay, well. Kingdom. And by the way, Hampus, thanks for sharing your experience with it. King Kingdom. Hey Miguel, hope you are good. I did your CGMA course last year and it was really great. Well, thank you. What is your real name? Because you're with your YouTube user name is very difficult for me to know, of course. So I'm curious, who are you? But yeah, thank you. That's very nice for you to say. A quick question. For illustrators starting out and not sure exactly what type of jobs to work towards, book covers, keyframes, fantasy book art, posters, etc., what would you recommend they start with? Well, that would, of course, my favorite answer, it depends. And it would depend on what is it that you want to be working with, or what is your situation and what are your goals. So what I mean by that is like, okay, so if your most the most important goal is just to get a job, um, then okay, then it doesn't matter what it is. It's just to get something happening, right? So then of course the answer, I mean, the direction would be into okay, the type of illustrations that are more common, or where there is more work to be had. And like, well, I mean, I think there is plenty of work in with kind of games, you know, type of illustrations for role games or board games, stuff like that. Card games. There's plenty of work. At the same time, of course, I mean, you have to understand that illustration as a field is massive, right? So there are so many different type of niches within illustration. So like children books, always gonna be children books, and or so that's why what I would the type of angle that I would like you to focus more is, and going back to what I mentioned on the beginning, is that what is that you want? I mean, more than just aiming randomly just for the sake of getting work. So, is it from the examples that you put, like, is it a fantasy work that you would like to do? Well, then focus on that, and yeah, put all your energies into that, and try to get work into that field, and not worrying too much about the rest. So I think that should be at least that's how I would do it. It's like trying to focus in the things that I would like to work the most with. And that's what should help me to decide which direction to take. Does it make sense? At least to begin with, but again, I mean, that doesn't mean that if you are flexible, then you can take different things, even though there is something that you like the most, but yes, you get an opportunity to something else. So yeah, if your question was in terms that where it is more likely to make a living out of it, well, I would say that again, in the entertainment industry, when it comes to all type of games, board games, that's big. There's always things happening. Perhaps cover art for books is a little bit more tricky, even though there's still plenty of work. But maybe it's a little bit more difficult, even though I'm not, I don't have a great experience as a professional illustrator. That's something that it's important for you to know as well. Most of my professional career is into concept art for video games and films and stuff like that, and not so much for illustrating per se. I've been working professionally as an illustrator just for 5 years. So I have a very limited experience in that sense. You mentioned also like keyframes. That's a completely very different type of things. And I would argue that it's more towards concept art, something in between. But and there is plenty of work on that, but yeah, but it's very niche. So maybe it's more difficult to get into it. Um, but yeah, I mean, keyframe art is mostly used for the film industry and TV industry now. Um, and there's plenty of projects, right? So there is work. But or maybe that is a little bit difficult to get a foot into it because you need to be very good at um, you need to be very fast, and I wouldn't necessarily call keyframe art as illustration. I, uh, I think it's a different discipline. Yeah, so I hope that that helps to give you an answer, and if not, please let me know. Wartorg, um, do you watch the Amazon Lord of the Rings series, and do you have a take on it? I am really hesitant to watch it myself. Well, of course, we had to talk about it today. And even though we've been talking a lot on previous streams. All right. So to your question, no, I have not, because I'm not subscribed to Amazon. So that's that's uh, that's the main reason. Now, in terms of my thoughts about it, well, it's very limited since I have no access to it. I haven't watched the thing. I only saw the all the trailers and all the marketing material for it. What I have been doing instead of watching the series, I just been looking at some in-depth reviews, like in-depth reviews of each episode. And I have watched. There has been released 3 episodes. I have seen the reviews for 2 episodes. And aside from my previous opinion, what they are describing, and again they go almost I mean, very in depth reviews of each episode. Not in general terms, but they go part by part, kind of explaining and discussing what is happening, and so I get a kind of, even though I haven't seen it and I don't get the experience as a viewer, which is relevant. But still, from a more intellectual point of view, I think I get an understanding of what's the series about, and what I'm seeing and hearing. I think it's horrible. It seems to be super. I mean, and again, I'm super conscious that my opinion it's not that relevant because I haven't seen it myself. So I'm relying on other people's of what they are saying, right? So that's problematic in certain way. So I think that's important to take it in consideration for what I'm saying. But again, it seems that it's horribly written, that there are a lot of inconsistencies. It's nothing close to the original lore, which for me that's painful. Uh, and and yeah, I don't know. And some of the examples that they bring in some of these reviews, it's like things that are not that important, but still put the level of storytelling and it's of the series, and it's, in my humble opinion, quite horrible because it's so small things that are so silly but make such a big impression, or or at least it feels that it gives that impression. Again, because since I haven't seen it, I cannot speak for myself, but from how they are describing it, yeah, it's like there is on the second episode apparently uh, um, spoilers alert, um, Elrond and Celebrimbor are going to visit Moria, and it's supposed to be uh, quite some journey. I mean, at least several days long, and they just, and the way it is presented on the series, it feels that they are just going for a stroll. They don't take horses, they don't take any bags with them, you know, with some extra clothing or anything that makes the feeling that they are traveling. Just like a stroll on the park. And again, it's something quite silly, something not that big on the scale of things, but kind of set the tone of how bad it is, or it seems to be, because they are failing at making things believable. Uh, um, that's one of plenty of examples that I have heard. Um, and they are illustrating these things with the scene, so you can actually see it, and it's quite. I mean, it's just ridiculous. Maybe because of the pacing and the rhythm, you don't notice that, but from the fact that they are reviewing and mentioning this, it seems that yeah, you actually notice it. So yeah, I don't know. And then of course it comes with the all the things with swapping of characters and what they have done with Galadriel, and that apparently is like a horrible character that nobody likes her, and when he's one of the coolest characters in the whole lore for me. Um, I don't know. Everything that I'm hearing is very bad, and I know last week some of you were that have seen it were saying that you actually were enjoying it, um, which is fantastic. So I'm happy for you. But what I'm hearing and the things that I have seen kind of match together, and I don't know. I don't know. I'm still cautious once again because I'm of the opinion that in order to have a fully fledged and well put together opinion about something, you need to have, in this case for a film or a book, you must have read it or seen it, and this is not my case. So I'm I'm aware of that, and I'm cautious. but the way I feel it is that, yeah, bad. Also, in terms of the visuals, there are plenty of things, to be honest, and this is from a, I mean, and all these type of opinions are, I'm taking them from a professional point of view. So it's not just me, Miguel Iglesias, as a random viewer. It's just like I cannot avoid but just put my professional hat into it when I look at these things, and I don't know. I don't like it. I don't like it. There are plenty of things that looks very good and probably are good, but the overall thing is, I don't buy it. It doesn't look, it doesn't feel Lord of the Rings whatsoever. The things, for example, when it comes to character design, and again, this strictly speaking about character design, the way they are portraying the characters, some of the main characters, the elves with those haircuts is just like horrible. That's not Lord of the Rings. I'm sorry, it is not. At least for me. I don't know. I would definitely love to see it. But yeah. I don't see myself subscribing to Amazon just for watching it, so I don't think it's gonna happen. But yeah, I mean, if you think differently, please let me know. I'm very curious. I'm very, very, very curious. As I have stated 1,000 times already on the stream, that I'm a huge fan of Tolkien work. So, of course, that's something that I'm hugely interested about as a fan, and then as a professional, more into how it's the adaptation being done, etc., etc. Gathering Wolves, man, these poses and gestures are so good. I like how your concept art also tells a story in itself. Lots of depth based on facial expressions. Thanks, man. Much appreciated. Means a lot, because yeah, that's kind of something that I try to put a lot of effort into it. So yeah, means a lot. Thank you. Hampus Nielsen, they did a new version about the same time the movies came. All right. So I understand that it's a better version than the original first translation to Swedish. And if that is the case, I wonder why. What made the first version so bad? And again, if that is the case, that it was that bad, which I don't know. But yeah. But yeah, you get what I mean. Andrea, did you use references for the facial features? I have a thing for portraits and I'm super curious. You mean, what do you mean, for in general or for these ones? For these, I mean, for these ones and in general, yes, I tend to look at a lot of references to if I'm looking for specific expressions and stuff like that. Yeah, I need to spend some time researching what those expressions are. That might be also myself just looking in front of the mirror. I mean, it could be plenty of things, but yeah, because subtleties are almost infinite into all the things that you can do with a human face, or, well, I mean, human, but you get what I mean. Because still, even they are not human, but yeah, they are very human-like. Again, very Roman-like. Try to make it slightly different. Also, now I remember, somebody asked me on Instagram a question, and I said I was going to answer during the stream. Let me see. The question. Here it is. So the question was, I'm trying to get better with a digital workspace with a focus on a more classic painting style like your own. I'm curious to ask, what is it you tend to study in order to get such a unique style? All right, so this kind of goes into the one of the first questions at the beginning of the today's stream, kind of to some degree. So it is a very complex question, right? This thing about style and tied into to certain degree into technique and things of that kind. So when it comes to painting more painterly as myself, well, what I can say is that to me it comes as a result of my own interest, right? Of artists that I admired, and I always try uh, to replicate to a certain degree, right? Because I love how they paint and always try to aspire to paint like them, which happens to be in a this more uh, loose way. I mean, painterly would be the wrong way to say it, because, well, painterly, if it's paint in oils, well, then it is what it is. But more loose. So for me, as I've said already plenty of times, it's artists like Velázquez, Sorolla, Andersorn, Sargent, Klimt, um, and and I love how they their way of painting, and that's something that I always try to emulate to the best of my capabilities. And this has been since always, basically. So that's been a main goal for me always. That's what I like to see, and what I like to do. So the way I paint now, it's as a result of that conscious decision of trying to aim for a way of painting similar to that. So it's been the result of years of studying and really absorbing and trying to understand how those artists worked, to see how they solve certain problems. Like, okay, do I need to, I don't know, if I'm doing like those rivets here on the helmet, do I need to make every single detail super clear and defined, or is it enough with two brush strokes, like boop boop, that's it, right? So that's the result of me understanding or trying to think, how would they have done it, right? So again, it's just studying and painting with purpose, with that goal in mind. Then, what defines my style or anybody else's style? Well, that's another story, and a pretty common subject among students and people that start their artistic journey, and is this obsession about finding your own style, right? That I'm struggling to find my own style. How should I do it? How do you do your style? How do you came with your style? And the the answer to that is that personal styles of people, mine or any other artist, just come from experience and time. Experience and time, experimenting different techniques, different looks and styles. Not in not personal styles, but techniques. One could say. Um, of working, experimenting, right? Because also you are evolving as a person, as an artist. So the things that interested me when I was 20 years old are not the same now in terms of art, and some I mean there are plenty of examples of certain artists that before I used to think, this is the way I want to paint or draw. This is my aim. And after some time, I just moved past that, and I didn't think that that was for me. So you are constantly evolving. So it's just about finding something that you like, and that you drive towards, and it's that combined with also experimenting different ways of working and finding a way that not only gives the results that you are looking for, but also the ways that you like working along the way. So finding a process that you enjoy put into to practice. And that applied through time and experimentation, and until you find something that you this is it. And sometimes it comes to trying to emulate other artists, right? And to think, I like how, let's say, if, I don't know, Sorolla use of colors. I like that, but I also like how these other artists paint with some line art, and sometimes then you are tied to pick a little bit of here, a little bit of there, and you filter it through you, and then something else comes the other from the other end, and after some time, there you go. You have found your style. So more or less that's kind of the process, but it's something that if you are starting, it's something that you shouldn't worry about or getting obsessed about of trying to find your style. That's gonna come sooner or later. That's a fact. You just need to paint, explore, experiment, and you will get there. So that's kind of the answer, and it's a little complicated, as I said. So in order to get a more painterly style, I would say try to study artists that have a painterly style and try to decipher how they work. I mean, if especially if it's contemporary artists, there's plenty of artists that put online their processes or time lapse videos, as I do myself. So I will kill for a time lapse video of Velázquez painting a painting, or Anders Zorn, to see how they did it, right? So since we don't have those, then it's more about detective work through making a study yourself and trying to decipher, okay, what were they doing, and what was the aim of doing things in this way in order to achieve these results. So doing a lot of studies, and trying to apply those things into your painting. So yeah, if what you mean in this case in terms of like brush economy and stuff like that is like, well, then do a lot of exercises and practice that about brush economy. Try to describe things with the least possible brushes as you can, and making a conscious effort into doing that. So it's like the typical um, um, exercise that you get on like fine art schools when you are starting to learn to paint, right? So they give you some objects to paint, and they ask you just to simplify them in very simple planes to kind of get the values, the volume, the colors in its simplest form. Maybe they give you an apple and they give you a constraint of how many colors you can use, and or in how some few planes you can condense that object into. So yeah, I hope that it gives an answer. And like I always say, if that is not the case, let me know, and I will try to explain better next time. Or if there is anything that needs to be clarified as well. So. Kingdom. Thanks very much, Miguel. It's Robin here. All right, Robin. Yes, of course. Of course. I remember you. Thanks for the answer, and you make some good points to think about. All right, Robin. Um, if if you think there is anything else you want me to clarify, then let me know. But yeah, happy if that answered your question. And how are you doing, by the way? It's been a long time. How are you? Last week was the last week of the summer term. So it's always sad to let students go. Also, it's nice to have a little bit of a pause because it's quite intense, the course for me as well. So Raymond Minar, just popping in to say hi on my way out, but I will watch the live stream tomorrow while working. Have a good night. Well, Raymond, you're probably out already since I'm always so far behind the chat. So, hello, welcome. Thanks for saying hello. And yes, you will see it tomorrow then. But yeah, glad that you say hello. Much appreciated. Hampus. I haven't read the new version of it. Started reading all fantasy and sci-fi in English pretty early in my life, so yeah, just some small errors like the wrong person killed the Witch King. Oh, really? That okay? So it's that bad? That I mean, in terms that they make it, even those things, those basic stuff wrong. Yeah. Okay. So and it's not just like about fine tune of the craft of translation, but just like making some obvious errors Yeah, that's bad. Hampus, if you can read Swedish, there is a site dedicated to that. Yes, I can, but yeah, maybe if sometime I'm too bored or have nothing to do, I might, but I doubt it. To be honest, yeah, I mean, I think it's an interesting topic, but not that interesting. You know what I mean? To the point of having to go and read it. But anyway, thanks a lot for clarifying all these things, because yeah, I think it's interesting. Always thought it was quite weird. But yeah, nobody just told me that they were just flat out uh, mistaking characters and stuff of that kind. That's obviously pretty bad. Well, I don't know what to do with the design of the helmet. I'm trying to do something slightly different, but I don't know. I mean, there's a certain type of helmets that I always, in my mind, I always think of Lord of the Rings orcs, and it's with pretty much covering the face with lots of um, bars. I don't know, things like these. But the thing is that since I want the faces, I want the faces to be visible. So that's why I'm kind of struggling in terms of the way I envision military gear for orcs in Lord of the Rings for this specific illustration. You see, I would, if I wouldn't care too much about the face, I would certainly I would go with something that perhaps cover and has some openings like this, or like a like something pointy, but yeah, I want us to see the face fully. be like a nose guard like this. And one important thing of how this guy described on the book is, I mean, nothing is described. Everything is, the description is pretty loose, which is pretty good because it allows me to be pretty free. It's just it mentioned the spear, the bow, and that he is wearing the Sauron eye. And I know I have put him this arm just down like this, but I been thinking about the possibility of changing the pose in a way that he is starting to draw a dagger or something, with the intention perhaps to stab the other guy, since they are arguing and they dislike each other pretty much. So as if he's considering, like, I'm just gonna stab this little shit here. Because I mean, you can I don't know if any of you remember this scene from the book, but from the from the conversation, you really get the impression that this guy, the big warrior, he looks down into the lesser orc, the scout. Is like if he's from a lesser caste of orcs, and like he has some disdain. Also, this is a little bit off topic, but still related to to this illustration. I'm tempted to do, once I'm finished, which probably is gonna take me quite some time. But I'm tempted to do a special military operation edition, if you know what I mean. Since we have some orcs here. And I will leave it at that for no spoilers, if I get to do that. Because if I decide to do that, then it would mean that I will have to do a completely new illustration, still using this as a base, but it's a completely different illustration. And yeah, as you know, I have very little time, so yeah. But the idea could be cool. Yeah, I'm kind of liking this idea of making the the big guy Garn, um, kind of consider like drawing the a dagger or something. Uh, 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 um. One thing that I always liked about Lord of the Rings orcs is that they are so close to uh, creatures from traditional tales, right? So more like goblins and creatures from the forest than the what has become a fantasy trope, which has gone away pretty much away from Lord of the Rings orcs. So yeah, I like that quite a lot. It gives them so much personality and flavor. They are not just mindless beasts, uh, as they have become in many other fantasy settings, or even depictions of Lord of the Rings. I mean, as they are just like feral creatures and stuff like that, and they are not. They are very human-like. I One thing that always struck me, and I think it gives so much depth and of course put everything into perspective into Tolkien's work. But when you read about orcs in Lord of the Rings, mainly, I mean, yeah, because in other works of his, I mean, on the Hobbit as well, but on the rest is you don't get such a closer look into these characters. Is the obvious how do you say inspiration into military people in his experience, I guess from the war, where orcs they have identification numbers and stuff like that, uh, and they talk a very, I mean, you can see that they are well organized, that they have a military jargon, the way they speak, and so it gives another angle and give them more depth than, once again, just mindless feral creatures. They have officers, they have, it's they have a complex society, if you know what I mean. Or, I mean, you get glimpses of it. It's never really fully fledged, but Tolkien gives some hints here and there, and they are enough just to give you a sense. Uh, And this guy, as he's described, he's, I mean, Tolkien makes a very specific and deliberate description that he has big nostrils, uh, making reference that he used his smell to hunt. So I have to make sure that he has a big nose. Another thing I'm still not completely sure is about the proportions overall. Um, so yeah, let's see what we can do about that. Not saying that is wrong either. It's just that I'm not sure yet. Wartorg, The Witcher Netflix series killed all my hope for some good fantasy adaptation. So my expectations were low for Lord of the Rings. Definitely getting your point about the importance of already established lore. Yeah, I mean the thing with The Witcher, my only previous relation with The Witcher is the video games. So I'm not a connoisseur of the Witcher lore and the books aside from the adaptation of the game. So yeah, I so for me, I mean, I enjoyed the series, but I'm aware that uh, it's it's not doing a good job from what I heard of adapting the books themselves. There are especially from the first season, there are certain things that I more like from a professional point of view, like the some of something that really stood out to me in a wrong way was the some costume designs. But aside from that, the rest I personally enjoyed it, even though it was um, just entertaining. Basically, that that is what it was for me. So that's why, for example, when it comes to this series of Lord of the Rings, Rings of Power, that's something that always have said is like, well, my opinion is definitely influenced by the fact that I'm a huge fan of Tolkien work, and I cannot see uh, this series with any other eyes than that, right? So I cannot detach from the fact that it has to be faithful to the original material, or at least trying to adapt the best as possible. Of course, you in any adaptation you can never just make everything exactly the same as the books, because it's another medium. As for example, the Peter Jackson films, right? There are plenty of things that are different from the books and stuff like that, but still is faithful to the original material. But for the Rings of Power, that is not the case, and that's problematic for me. And on top of that, yeah, everything that I'm hearing is just that. Aside from that, which for me would be enough to not care, but it's just that it just simply put, it's just bad. Bad storytelling, bad writing, very bad. I mean, some of the things that I've been watching and hearing on these reviews were just like, just bad. There's no other way to put it. Inconsistencies, things that I mean, they just break the 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 a minimum of believability, right? To make things plausible or believable is just like they are just taken out of the window from how things are written and developed, how they develop the characters, how they present the scenes and the situations. It's just like, yeah, bad. But again, I mean, who knows? Maybe if I would watch it, I wouldn't notice those things. So yeah, it's I'm in a weird position. Yeah, something that, and I'm just trying to think of some of the points that I heard from the reviews of the episode that I thought they were just like insanely bad. I don't know. Like, spoiler alerts. I mean, it's not a big spoiler anyway, but apparently there is one point where Galadriel is ordered to go to Valinor on some ships. That's the first thing where, for example, from the Lord point of view, that's moving away because she was banned. I mean, yeah, she that wouldn't have well, that's never happened because she was banned from going back to Valinor to begin with. But okay, so putting that aside, she's supposed to go there, and before getting there, she decided just to jump out of the boat and swim back to Middle Earth. But that would mean that she is expecting to swim back like something as the Atlantic Ocean. I mean, it doesn't. I mean, it's just so silly. I mean, it's. I don't know. If that's exactly how it is, because again, that's how they presented or explained on the review. So, but if that is the case, if she's just jumping out of the of the ship to and expecting to reach Middle Earth, it doesn't make any sense. It's just stupid. It's like if you are in the coast of Spain or Portugal, and you just jump and decide, "Yeah, I'm just gonna swim to New York." I mean, uh, uh, yeah, I mean, it's just so mind-boggling. And that's supposed to be Galadriel, right? That she's wise, and it's, I mean, it's just mad. I mean, if any of you that are on the stream now if you have seen the series, can you confirm this to me? Because it's hard for me to believe that that's the case, because it's just so idiotic. I mean, and yes, I get that if you don't know about the lore, you are not um, familiar with the world, and then yeah, how would you know, right? Uh, but assuming, as they were saying, that yeah, they wanted to be as close and faithful to the books, and they are doing that, it's just like I, oh my goodness. Yeah, better to flip the whole canvas then. Let's see. Cantabrian, hey Miguel, liking the subject of today's stream, did you manage to check out the Men of the West channel yet? Yes, I have. Pretty cool. Thanks a lot, man. Much appreciated. And of course, welcome to the stream, Cantabrian. Luis Ramon, hi Miguel, a pleasure to see you tonight. The next weeks I will be so busy in a business trip, but I try to listen to your stream and draw something. Well, of course, man. Uh, as always, you are very welcome, and well, I mean, I'm always glad if you can make it. Juan Carlos Zambrano, like the snotlings in Warhammer 40k. I like them as well. I like them as well. Wartorg, would be cool if the big guy is reaching for a dagger on his belt that's not in a clear side of the little guy. Yes, that I agree. That was kind of the idea. Here with this guy, I'm trying to deal in one hand with the pose, but at the same time, I'm already thinking in terms of the costume design of how he's dressed. Al, man, I'm amazed by your values control and the red band on the backgrounds that makes the character jump into the foreground. That gave me good chills. Flipante. Gracias. Yeah, thanks, man. Much appreciated. I, I mean, the thing with this is from the original sketch. So since this is supposed to happen in Mordor, I was thinking just to give this kind of cold, kind of ash type of feel to the atmosphere, but also have like that kind of orange, reddish glow on the horizon, hinting of Mount Doom. But I still don't know exactly how I would pull that off. I kind of like that it's a little bit lower on the sketch. So, but yeah, we'll see. But I agree. I like myself this combination. I think it gives a very nice contrast. Tim, do you have a digital painting course? No, I do not. I have a course online, narrative illustration and characters, which is about visual narrative and how to apply it into illustrations and characters. And that can be applied, of course, for digital paint. I mean, to any type of artistic medium. So it's not just for digital painting. So yeah, that's the only course that I have available. So that course is in at CGMA. I mean, the thing is that this guy, to me, it's kind of more straightforward. The type of the idea I have for him, more like I mean, with obvious differences, but at least in my mind, I'm thinking of like loosely inspired into some Saxon warrior or some Celtic warrior, loosely, all right? That's kind of the inspiration, because that's kind of how I envision Lord of the Rings in that way. Not so much like high medieval times, but with the scout orc or goblin. I don't know how it's described in English as an orc or as a goblin. In Spanish, they differentiate them as well, goblins and orcs. But in the Spanish version, he's described as a lower caste of orcs, so he's not a goblin, but still, you get the feeling from the type of description that he's some sort of goblin. But yeah, anyway, so I'm kind of not sure what to go for. I kind of I'm not sure. In a way that both looks good, but also fits the description of Tolkien, which again is very loose. He just talk about some ragtags, basically, and a bow. Um, right. Now I'm on daddy duty. Um, but well, it's quite late actually, so I think uh, uh, I'm having so much fun that I didn't realize that it's actually time to to finish the stream. uh, I'm really enjoying painting this illustration. I'm quite happy that I made the decision to just um, to go ahead and try a Lord of the Ring illustration, since this is my very first ever Lord of the Rings illustration. Funny enough, being such a huge fan of Tolkien, and I never dared to do an illustration. Can you believe it? It's just insane. I think I the way to explain it is that since I'm such a big fan, I've been kind of scared. So yeah, let's see what happens. I take this illustration very seriously. I really want to make a good thing out of it. And something that feels genuine for me. said that I want to finish, but I'm glued to my seat. But I seriously have to go. My son now it's waking up every single day around 5:30 in the morning. He's killing us. Let's flip back. I mean, he could as well be a little bit bigger. That's what I mean with the proportions, that I'm not sure yet. I would like him to have very long arms. Somehow. MLP Alpha Pony. Hey Miguel, is it possible to order a print by your hand? A print by my hand? I'm not sure I understand. If you mean prints of some of my art, yes, you can. You can go to InPrint and yeah, I have some prints there available. Yes. Or on my ArtStation shop as well. But I would prefer InPrint because after ArtStation decided to censor my illustration about Ukraine war. I'm not happy about it, so I prefer not to give any money to ArtStation. But yeah, I mean, you decide. Tim, I would be interested in a more basic digital painting course at the moment. I like your brushwork quite a lot. All right, Tim. Well, then I'm afraid that no, I don't have anything of the sort. I'm afraid. I mean, just thinking now, I just thought about that he could also have some sort of code or something as well. I mean, just to show that it's cold and could make him look slightly more interesting. Yeah, I mean, what I'm struggling at the moment is that he look if he just is kind of even as in a rough stage as it is at the moment. But just like this, I'm struggling to feel that he looks interesting. This is just too simple. So maybe some sort of quote. It's still okay in terms of the description in the book. Still, I'm just exploring, so I'm not sure about this. I don't know. I'm feel tempted to add some extra elements on his attire. I guess the key will be just to make it look like kind of ragtag. So something that looks very poor and so as if his armor is made of these kind of metal rings, just some few around, like as if that would really help. But again, I'm not completely sold with the idea. only thing that I'm struggling a little bit with this guy is that he feels a little bit cartoony on the face. I would prefer to give him a little bit more realistic and grim feel to him instead of more like a cartoony type of goblin. So maybe I might need to deshumanize his face a little bit in order to give him a little bit. Quack, 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 quack. Aha. Look. Was this, well, I don't know. At least for me. Just the angle of the jaw there. Now he looks way less cartoony. To me, what do you think? Alan Smith. You need to publish a book for beginners. Take them through your process. You obviously didn't start out painting values straight away. Or did you? Love your art, thanks. Alan Smith. Well, yeah, no, obviously not. No, not at all. Of course. yeah, making a book like that, yeah, perhaps, yeah, who knows, maybe at some point, but yeah, I can already see that that will be such a huge undertaking. It's quite insane. I mean, how much, well, I don't know, at least to me, but how much of a difference makes this small little change. Cartoony, I mean, at least that's how I see it. Not so cartoonish. I guess I need to change slightly the mouth as well. Let's see. Um, Wartork. Are those guys depicted in the movies at all? I can only remember the orcs fighting amongst themselves at City Ungol. As a small against a big dude. Maybe that's kind of a tribute to them. I was about to say the jaw look a bit big, like Warhammer Fantasy Goblins type big, and they look kind of cartoony. Uh, yeah, I think that's a good point with the jaw. Yes, I mean definitely yes. This yes, yes. Regarding what you mean about the films, I know what you mean, and no, I think those orcs on the tower, they are other orcs. As far as if I recall correctly, on the books, they are other orcs. So no, I think they are not depicted at all on the films. I mean, it makes sense because, well, again, it's just a paragraph, so it's not at all that important for the story itself. It just give a little bit more depth into the situation and characters, right? But uh, well, I think there needs to be much more to be done to make it a little bit less cartoony, but I think that's gonna be for today. Uh, I would love to stay longer, but yeah, I need to sleep while I can. Well, um, like always, I had a lot of fun. Thanks everybody for joining today uh, and for saying hello. And if you didn't and you've been lurking, well, still, thanks for joining in. And yeah, let's see. We will retake it next week. Let's see if I have some spare time and do something in between. We'll see. But yes, see you next week at the same time. And yeah, paint, draw quite a lot. Have fun. Take care. Stay safe and healthy. And yeah, see you next time. And once again, thanks for joining. It's always an absolute pleasure and a blast talking to all of you. And Andrea, you didn't ask much, so so go ahead and just and shoot. Don't be afraid. Okay, take care. Bye.